It is 6 o'clock and time to call this May 7th Findlay City Council meeting to order. Roll call of members, please.
Mr. Ballman?
Here.
Mr. DeArmond?
Here.
Ms. Frischi?
Here.
Mr. Greeno?
Here.
Mr. Hellman?
Here.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Here.
Mr. Palmer?
Here.
Mr. Russell?
Here.
Ms. Warnicki?
Here.
And Mr. Wobser?
Present.
Council President Harrington informed us that he would be missing this meeting, and I'm not sure if we need to excuse his absence, but what Mr. Stasiak says we do. Mr. Ballman, are you in a motioning mood to?
So moved.
And second by Mr. DeArmond. All those in favor of excusing Mr. Harrington, please say aye.
Aye.
And he is excused. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We need to accept our April 16th, 2024 regular session of City Council meeting minutes as distributed. Motion, Mr. Palmer. Second, Mr. Greeno. Questions or comments on the minutes? All in favor of accepting as sent around, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign, and they are accepted. Mr. Wobser, a few acceptances or a few add-ons, replacements, and to the agenda.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that these changes be made to the following agenda items. We have replacements on the City Planning Commission May 9th, 2024 agenda. They removed the application for conditional use for the Tesla Selective Site Consultants at the Marathon Station on West Main Cross. They also removed the application for conditional use of the cigar shop on South Main Street. And also, let's see here, we have I'm going to guess that's a new, now item 3, excuse me, an application for conditional use filed by Richard Binner to split the parcel at 515 Prospect Street and create 2 duplexes. I believe that was just a change in the word to avenue to street. Also have 3 add-ons. We have a letter from Mayor Murin concerning the Performance R&D property. We also have a letter from City Engineer Kalb concerning a Blanchard Street water line replacement, and also ordinance number 2024-62, the Blanchard Street water line replacement phase 2, that would be in relationship to City Engineers Kalb's letter. I would make a motion that those be accepted into tonight's agenda.
Second, Mr. Palmer. Questions or comments? All in favor of amending the agenda as moved, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign, and the agenda has been adopted. We have no proclamations or retirements, so we'll move on to petitions.
An alley vacation from Ron King for Tappan Avenue from LaGrange Street to the north dead end.
And we'll refer this to the City Planning Commission and Planning and Zoning Committees. On to oral communications. We have 2 folks who want to address us today. Robin Welly, you are up first.
Hello, I'm Robin Welly, 1711 Cary Avenue, Findlay, Ohio. West Park Block Watch President. Miss Jackie McGee has a headache tonight, so I'm stuck tonight. Our fight started because the organizations that said building their homes lifts up our entire community. Well, their builds are no lift up to West Park. It will only add to problems of our underdeveloped neighborhood. We already welcomed over 40% of their homes and have made it very clear they're wearing out their welcome. We fought to get our infrastructure finished. We appreciate it. That is finally going to be done. That is a major improvement, but we still have an environmental problem. Without storm sewer, every new roof and slab of concrete contributes to our flooding. Our green space is our valuable commodity to our neighborhood. We've stated multiple times about the sewage in our catch basins. We have been put off and told it wasn't so. We do have E. coli in the Lime Avenue and Newell catch basin. That is one catch basin in our neighborhood. Does the city stop there testing, or do they continue testing our other catch basins? For those that still want to deny we have it, I have a letter from Findlay's Water Pollution Control Center. The sample was taken the afternoon of April 1st, 2024. The sample was analyzed for E. coli and returned positive. The results was greater than 2420 mpn. This means there's feces in the catch basin, human or animal. Since we've already told council we have witnesses that seen tissues in the drain, I doubt our animals have access to buy toilet paper. The last council meeting, one councilman read a statement that sympathizes with those that have to pay to connect to sewer lines. That's the cost of being a homeowner. We all had to pay to connect in West Park, as well as every other home in the city. These homeowners at least have multiple people looking into grants to lighten some of their financial burdens. The advantage of this investment of connecting to a municipal sewer, the value of their property will increase. It is also less expensive than installing a new septic system. Another councilman stated he was flabbergasted that the neighborhood was constructed in an area not fit for basic essentials. He states that city now has to bail them out. West Park is an original neighborhood of Findlay, Ohio. It's not a subdivision. We are not an afterthought. We all pay our taxes and all contribute to the storm fund, even though 90% of us have no storm sewers. Since we pay our fair share, we don't think the city is bailing us out. We are at least all City of Findlay residents. If you want to know what a bailout is, let's be looking at Spring Lake. Spring Lake is still receiving free sanitary sewers, and some of those residents are not even Findlay City residents. Isn't that a bailout? That also has been mentioned before, but never addressed. Why at this point are they not paying the minimal sewage costs like everybody else in the city of Findlay, Ohio? A councilman said going forward he would not be in favor to build anywhere with the conditions that exist, with conditions like that exist in West Park. Well, that is exactly the build the city is planning on Carlin Avenue. Conditions are worse there because it's joined to the stone quarry with only I-75 separating them. In addition, the new blasting would destroy foundations to our home more than the quarry already does. As announced at the one and only ad hoc committee meeting, the city was going to be the general contractor and sell off lots on Carlin Avenue. Never another meeting or more information on this project has been revealed to us. We now ask the question, is that ad hoc committee dead? What is going on in our neighborhood? Thank you for your time. And here it is from the Water Pollution Control Center stating about the E. coli in our storm sewer, in our catch basin.
Mr. Kalb.
So I want to clarify something on the test that was on that. So once we seen the E. coli was high on that, we did run a little bit farther test on that. We ran a BOD, which is your biochemical oxygen demand on that, which is really going to tell if there's organic material in there on that. The output on that was 4 milligrams per liter, and our EPA allowance for our water pollution control is 10 milligrams per liter. So that's classified in the moderately clean area. And then the total suspended solids, there was no detection of that. So we can't say that it was 100% sewer or anything like that, but with the E. coli, talking with Dave Beach on that too, because it is concerned with the high number on that. During October to May, we don't run our UV because we do not have to due to EPA regulations and stuff like that. But during May to October, we are running that where it lowers the E. coli because of the UV disinfection that we do. But anyways, between October and May, when we are not running that, we are running higher E. coli numbers such as this that is shown it. So, you could say this is an outlet to to a septic system that has E. coli. They do not have UV systems that would be cleaning that out. So we are underneath the BOD limit, which is going to really show if there's any kind of demand of oxygen from organic materials that are in that. So we're below the limit, and the total suspended solids, there was none detected on that. So once that was, that was a concern to us, the E. coli on that. So we wanted to run, after we found that out, we talked with Beach and said, hey, we need to run some more tests on that to make sure that what was going out there is not a health concern or anything that needs to be immediately addressed.
I guess that Dave Beach didn't mention that to me. He said, this is very high. I don't think we're going to do anything because we're going to replace those. I was like, what about our other ones? Just wasn't his problem. I guess I just didn't want to be told that I was false in saying that there was sewage in a catch basin that I knew was in the catch basin. And that is exactly where E. coli comes from, is some kind of feces, correct?
Well, like I said, with our outlet of our water pollution plant, that's the byproduct of from all the feces and stuff once it's cleaned out. But the UV is killing that bacteria within the E. coli. Well, if you don't run UV, you're not going to be killing that that bacteria, part of that. So, like I said, it was a concern to us. Why is that so high? We want to know. We need to run some more tests to clarify it. If it's not an immediate concern, that needs to be addressed sooner than later type thing.
Thank you.
Ms. Frishy?
2 questions, one for Jeremy, one for Rob. What was the health department's response to that test? And then the other is, can you give an update, Rob, on Spring Lake getting any closer? I know we emailed a few months back on getting these folks on the pay system for all services for water and sewer.
So the first question on that, the health department is aware of it, but with what we're running on numbers, there isn't a concern, what is going out. If you're out in the, country with your normal septic system, you're going to be pushing out those. So it's not a higher number that is out of the, I don't want to say norm, but it's not a alerting number. That's why we looked at BOD. Now, if our BOD was above what our outlet is, then yeah, there's a major problem out there. So the health department's aware of it, but there's, with what we're seeing on the BOD and the total suspended solids, there's not really a concern that we need to, make an action right now on.
And because we're doing the project, is
And
probably
doing the
why they're not
project,
overly
will be,
alarmed.
that E. coli will be solved on that, but, and then for I can speak for the Spring Lake, because I've been in that before you jump into it, but where we're at right now, we're working with the EPA because the cost of pumps are pretty expensive right now. We are needing to pump to get the sewer across 15 and 68 right there for that. So we are working with the EPA to obtain the additional construction funds with that. As I've stated in a couple of water sewer committee meetings with that, we don't own that system right now. I don't want to take that over and start billing people on that, and then now we don't have any kind of leverage or anything with the EPA to say, hey, this is not our system. Right now, this is their system. We're staying out of it, and I don't want to lose any kind of leverage where we would not have that. The EPA has came in, and they are wanting us to take over that system, so they understand that any costs with the sewer rates or anything like that, that we have a way, we are tracking all those, so that way we are reimbursed for all that. The construction is 100%, because at the end of the day, I don't want the city to have one dime into this. This should be, the EPA came to us, 100% should be EPA. As soon as I, start billing people that, now I lost that leverage on say, well, you guys are getting revenue from that. Why don't you put some money into it? So that's where we stand right now. We are working with the EPA on that, trying to finish getting those funds, but we are planning on getting that in construction yet this year.
Appreciate you clarifying that, just so they know we're going to get paid. They say they have a report.
Mr.
We'll be made
Wiltshire?
whole.
Robin, the first 2 sentences of your statement, were you referring to habitat?
Yes,
Okay, you didn't say that specifically. I just wanted to make sure that that's what you were talking about.
exactly.
Okay, so you're saying habitat's worn out, they're welcome. Thank you.
We have 40% of their fields in Findlay, Ohio. West Park House owes, I think it's 43.6%. It's over 40%. I think that we've done our fair share to contribute to their organization.
Mayor Mern?
Regarding the ad hoc committee, the action items from that were to put together, the administration to put together a game plan of how we would recommend proceeding with that. That just has not been a top priority given the community's pushback and us working on other items. So at some point that will probably be revisited, but we understand it's not really a high priority because we did have it bid out, we're farming it. So it's something that's on our list, but you guys will be well informed when we decide to move forward with anything on that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, and Robin, additionally, the ad hoc committee at the end of at the end of December, at the end of the council term, that ad hoc committee dissolved, so it would have to be recalled. We'd have to call the committee again in order to have it formed.
Okay,
Other questions or comments? Thank you, Robin.
thank you.
Next up is Haiti Sadler.
Haiti Sadler, Defiance Avenue. Sorry, I brought this clunky thing because I forgot to print this off. City Council, this evening I come with concerns over the illegal aliens that are being welcomed into our city. The definition of illegal alien is a foreign national who's living without official authorization in a country of which they are not a citizen. Wordsmithing to preferred terms like undocumented, people without legal migration status, or unauthorized immigrant does not change the legal terminology of who they are. So, an immigration task force has been created by this administration. I'm here to ask why there has been no pushback from City Council. Illegal immigration bleeds our federal, state, and local governments of billions of taxpayer dollars. We heard from several departments through the budget hearing in December of 2023. The courts reported increase of over 200%, if I'm not mistaken, for interpretation alone since the prior year. I can't imagine all the paperwork and additional time taken where crimes are committed. Chief Matthias said he reached out to Springfield because they're dealing with this and stated the waves will continue to get bigger. This is alarming. We're not reading of any crimes being committed by illegal aliens in our community, but according to an article in the Courier not too long ago, Hancock County prosecutor Phil Regal reported that drug-related charges rose in 2023. Possession charges were up 14% from 2022, and trafficking charges rose 33% from 2022. With this new population, domestic violence seems to be a problem. What started with minor traffic violations has led to theft, domestic violence, and other crimes. And this is not my opinion. This is what Chief Matthias had stated during that same budget hearing. And we're just seeing the beginning of it. Is it a coincidence that Legal Aid of Western Ohio is on the Immigration Task Force? Recently, in case you didn't know, the Biden administration took issue with Sheets, a company we're inviting, and the way the chain uses background checks to screen job seekers, which is about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the socialist agenda. Page 9 of the 2020 housing assessment prepared by DeSalvo Development mentioned Franklin County, which is in the Columbus area, and they're no longer displaying evictions older than 3 years old just to reduce barriers for households looking to maintain housing. They had stated that Hancock County municipal courts have the authority to do this and also recommended sealing and expunging criminal records. How many nonprofit organizations and non-governmental agencies are breaking the law here? This is a serious problem. There are laws set in place for illegal immigration under the Immigration and Nationality Act. Section 274 states it is unlawful to transport illegal aliens within the U.S., but we've got a task force wanting to provide transportation for population to get to their jobs and have mentioned it being for second and third shift. Section 212 discusses material misrepresentation as an alien who by fraud or willfully misrepresenting a material fact seeks to procure a visa, other documents, or admission into the United States. And I've seen them. I know those people, and while they say a majority of the people are here legally, there are a lot of people here illegally, and that is my big concern. Section 212, notable grounds for inadmissibility, applies to an intending immigrant who at the time of application for admission is not in possession of a valid unexpired migrant visa, reentry permit, border crossing identification card, or any other entry document.
Ms. Sadler, your 4 minutes are up. Unless someone on
Were you
council wants
almost
to
done?
make a motion to
Hmm?
extend.
Are you almost?
I
done?
am almost done, yeah.
I'll make a motion if she's quick to finish.
Second, Mr. Palmer. All in favor of giving Ms. Sadler more time, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Please continue.
Thank you. And my reason for bringing this up is because I've read that they're going to like help people get documents, but if they don't already have documents or their documents are expired, that makes them inadmissible already. And we're not seeing any deportations or ICE being called. Not only are these laws set in place to be sure people enter our country legally, there are criminal penalties for those that violate these laws. And I wanted to read one that says, anyone who encourages or induces an alien to come to, enter, or reside in the United States, knowing or in reckless disregard of the fact that such coming to entry or residence is or will be in violation of the law. So I think this task force should be called the Illegal Immigration Task Force, and I think that the residents of the city of Findlay should be declaring this as an emergency because there's an invasion happening in our country that's coming right into Findlay, and I think it's a public safety issue.
Questions or comments for Ms. Sadler? Ms. Frishy.
I know you made a comment about pushback. There's no pushback from council. I'm not sure what you'd like to see there, but you made a comment about ICE. And from what I think we've been explained in the past, ICE is not responding unless there is a crime being committed. Is that still the case, or is that changed at all?
I believe that is still accurate.
So we're not addressing what I believe is a valid concern of yours, but I don't want to say the administration, or we're not responding to it, but I don't think it's a we. It's
Mayor.
Well, if I may, I think Councilwoman, you're bringing up a good point. I think it's a really important distinction on a couple of things. You know, I completely agree that illegal entry to our country is something that we need to address. And as I've stated in multiple platforms, I think that that is I continue to advocate at the state and federal level for our border to be secured and our immigration policy to be addressed. So I think that there's two different things that we need to address here. One, if folks are here illegally, then yes, if we encounter them and they've committed a crime and then therefore we are interacting with them in a situation, we would notify ICE. They are not coming in unless there is an immediate threat to public, and then we would be detaining them until ICE comes. Fortunately, we have not had immediate threats to public, and we really have not encountered many undocumented individuals. The majority of the folks here are legal. As I have shared, that we've seen a large increase, which I know is alarming and concerning, and we need to figure out a way to wrap our arms around it, but we can't just build a wall around our city of Haitian refugees and asylum seekers in the country in a whole. So one of the questions I was actually going to ask, and Councilwoman Frishy, I'm happy to ask you as well as Ms. Sadler, is what do you think the city should be doing to address this? Because we don't control federal policy. We are working to make sure that folks that we are encountering, you know, have the proper documentation, and legal aid is involved because a lot of the conversations we're having are, hey, you've started your visa or asylum process, you have your paperwork. It may not make sense for you to stay in Findlay and try to, if you can work, get a job or set down roots here, because you have to travel to, a lot of them are Miami, Houston, Portland, Seattle, Cleveland, I think is the closest one. So it is a challenge, and that's one of the things we've shared with them is it may not make sense for you to put down roots here. So I guess kind of two questions is, what do you think we should be doing when we don't have federal government support? And two, what is your position on, you know, do you think we just shouldn't have immigrants in our community in general?
No, I started contacting some people on the task force, and I went to Mission Possible, and they said they're not taking any grant funds, which I was glad to hear. So they are helping in a way that is not taking our taxpayer dollars to do these kinds of things, where HATS is doing a survey, right? Public survey input process. We know how that goes just from the strategic planning committee, where you just change the words around to make it seem like they're doing something, but they're already talking about taking our tax dollars too, right? Getting grant funds to do this process, and I think that's one of my biggest problems. I don't have a problem like the churches reaching out, people having meals, the community reaching out. Yes, I've been around a lot of immigrants, you know, so I used to live in Florida. I mean, they were the majority. So it's not about not having them in our community. It's about using our taxpayer dollars when, of course, we're trillions of dollars in debt and there's an agenda being forced on our city and the citizens of Findlay are concerned. It seems like there's been a lot of time, a lot of even resources, everybody pulling together, and here the people are being put aside for another people, or like being replaced almost.
Ms. Frischie, did you want to
Well,
respond?
Yes, and
On-
she asked me a question.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I think I appreciate that question, Mayor. For me, you know, having task force, having all of our nonprofits reaching out, having the churches and all that, that's great. That's the human side. But when we are talking about having documented, undocumented, and having an influx in population into our community that we're not able to manage, that comes back directly to you and economic development, in my view. And then, and saying that in detail is when we are developing our community and we are bringing in low-paying jobs that we cannot fill, we're causing a problem for those businesses. We're also bringing in competition for the businesses that have made Findlay Hancock County their home for 20, 30 years. And when this whole program, diversity, I forgot the name of it, out of Springfield, Ohio, when it was promoted to at least me through economic development and what I heard through you and this programming, they were going to be flying folks in to the United States to work for 3 months at a time with a visa. Shake your head, but I'm not done. And then they were going to be going back, and it was going to be a managed thing. It suddenly turned into statements being said last year at Fresh Brewed Business where Springfield has these folks in here and they are redistributing them into communities that are set up for them. So we are our worst enemy because we have set ourselves up for it. We have set ourselves up for low-paying jobs that we cannot fill. And the community has been crying out for years, asking for more white-collar jobs, for higher-paying jobs, and we're not getting that. And so when I talk to employees that are working in these factories and they're coming to me with concerns and telling me the stories of what they're seeing, it's alarming, because if we're seeing it in those companies now, it won't be long until we see it on our streets and in our neighborhoods. And we have to address it. So we do need to be doing something. So even if ICE is not coming in, we need to be as proactive as possible. We need to use our resources to the maximum, and we need to say whoa on economic development until we have our wheelhouse in order. So I hope that answered your question.
Mr. Stasiak? Nope. Ms. Mayor Martin?
I'll try to hit on a couple of different points. So first of all, with HATS, they are a local transportation organization, and every so often they do a survey. All of our organizations are required to do that. They are not doing it because of our immigrant population, and they are required by law. Yes, they are a government-funded, semi-nonprofit organization. So that is their responsibility to do a needs assessment of the community. And I think one of the things that we've talked about a couple of different times is that all of the challenges that our immigrant population faces are also challenges that were in our community before they arrive. And so some of the conversations we're having are actually helping us better serve the community members that were here. And that's certainly something that we're addressing. Councilwoman Frischie, I would like to understand, well, first of all, with First Diversity, first of all, they were not brought in by economic development. One of our local organizations contacted them and then actually was utilizing them for about a year before economic development or myself was even aware that they were utilizing them. And I have never heard that they were flying them in and using them for 3 months. It was they were coming up from Springfield, individuals that were looking for work and saw opportunity in our community and were working through the staffing organization. I would agree that I'm concerned about folks trying to come into our community and the ripple effect. but I'm not sure exactly how you expect me to stop people from coming into our community when they can buy a hotel room and come in and look for jobs just like anybody else. So if you have an idea of how we can do that in a legal manner, I'm all ears. I've been reaching out to state organizations as well as other communities to say, listen, I'm happy to welcome immigrants that can be a contributing member of our community, that we can help, learn the language and wants to set down roots here. But we also cannot have thousands. We are not equipped to do that. And so I have to figure out a balance. Now, one of those is we don't have places for people to stay. That's going to be a limiting factor because folks aren't going to find somewhere to stay. So do you have a specific action that you are wanting the administration to take to help stop the immigrant population from coming to our community?
So using the word immigrant, an influx in population is a problem. I'm glad you recognize it. And I think even the strategic plan of the Immigration Task Force says it's going to take 5 years to get it under control. And recognizing that we already have a problem here and that we haven't been addressing it is what it appears you're trying to say. So we have a bigger problem now. I think if you recognize that we have a housing shortage, if we have a workforce shortage, then I think we need to be reevaluating our economic development. Because if we continue to bring low-paying jobs to be number one micropolitan, and we are not bringing in the jobs that the people in this community want, then you're doing a disservice. So that's number one bullet point I would love for you to tackle.
Mr. Wobser.
Ms. Sadler, you made a comment about sheets. And I want to make sure that everybody understands exactly what's going on with that, because I wasn't quite sure what you were saying about Sheets. Sheets was cited by the Biden administration for having their hiring practices were too high, not too low. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that Sheets was doing the right thing, and the Biden administration was pushing back against them.
Right.
And you didn't say that specifically, so I just want to make sure everybody understood that. Thank you.
I thought my sentence kind of led to the Biden administration is lowering and okay.
Mayor Mern.
My final comment, and I'd be happy to have more conversation about this, but I know we have other business to tend to this evening. Councilwoman Frischie, we do need more diverse jobs and higher paying jobs, and I look forward to restarting the conversation around the income tax incentive that I proposed earlier this year, because, and I would also like to understand what you consider low income jobs, because on average, all the jobs that we've brought into our community lately are $45,000 and above. And though I would love to continue to see that grow, one of the ways you do that is supply and demand, and our businesses increasing their wages. Additionally, the income tax rebate incentive program that I have proposed, the starting salary to be able to utilize that is over $60,000. I believe that that is a target that has been discussed in our community. So I agree we need to have a diverse economy. However, we also have to recognize that some of the strengths of our community are manufacturing and logistics, and those businesses are beneficial. So if there's a specific business that over the last 5-10 years that you would have gotten rid of, I would like to know which one. But I think you continuing to say that I'm ruining our community by bringing in low-income jobs is inaccurate and unfair and a disservice to our community, because when you make statements like that, you're representing the voice of the city of Findlay, and people pay attention to that. And it's disappointing because those comments are picked up on by businesses that would look to come here. And if that's how you're going to speak about businesses in our community, I don't think that that's beneficial.
Thank you, Ms. Sadler. Let's move on to written communications.
An email from Mike Mallet regarding downtown parking garage.
Questions or comments? Letter be filed. Reports of municipal officers and municipal departments.
Treasurer's reconciliation report of March 31st, 2024.
Questions or comments? Report be filed.
A letter from Attorney at Law Feigner regarding collective bargaining process.
Questions or comments? Mr. Wobser?
Rob and Mr. Fagner's not here tonight. I would thank him for putting this information together to clarify the situation with our collective bargaining process and what city council can and cannot do as far as being involved with that process. And I appreciate that being put together. The question then that we've got going forward is, Rob, when do you start, or when do you plan to start negotiations?
We're trying to get dates on this calendar now, so next couple weeks.
So actually within the next month then?
Ideally, yes.
Okay. The concern continues, I guess, in understanding that council will play its role. The concern continues that I still think that we need to look at potentially having a third party involved with this, and an outside counsel, which we have not utilized previously for a couple of years. And I'd like to get your thoughts on that, and think that we could take a hard look at getting our outside counsel involved, have a third party looking at this from the aspect of not having a skin in the game when it comes to taxpayers, or having to deal with either of the unions. Or 3 unions we're dealing with, Rob? 3 total?
Well, there's 2 unions, but
Two
there's
unions.
subdivisions under the police.
I guess that's what I meant. Thank you. Yes. So I'd like to make a motion that we require the administration to hire a third party or a third party counsel that we used to have in the past to help represent the city in these negotiations.
We have a motion. Is there a second to the motion? Motion dies for lack of a second. Ms. Frischie.
So I liked Councilman Whoopser's start to his motion. I would just say that the administration does not hire, that city council hires the outside legal counsel to be in the room. So my motion would be that moving forward, before negotiations start, that city council hires a outside legal to help with those negotiations.
We have a motion on the floor. Mr. Wobser.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. How would the hiring of that happen? Would we have at the next council meeting? Would we put out a request for quote and then have folks come in and give a presentation along? And then what would the process be for selecting such a firm? This is a question to the Ms. Fisher or Mr. Wobser. For first or second.
I can take it. Yeah, we're kind of. So we're talking process. I would like to know how we went about the process back several years ago when we hired outside legal to help with the negotiations, because it's not something new to the city of Findlay. And I would also think that there are attorneys who specialize in this. So if we have to do a request for proposal, that's fine. But I would think if we take the first step and look at what the process was in the past, and I don't know if the auditor has anything on that from paying them or negotiations. Would you have had any information on that? Because I know that Councilman Whoopser mentioned who used to do it way back when. Is that firm still around? Is Kerry Johnson's firm still around if he is not? Yeah, that's what I meant, but the firm, I didn't know.
Mr. Wobser.
Rob, have you thought about this at all? Do you have any information you could put in on that?
No,
Mr. Martin.
so think about this often as we anticipate going into these negotiations, and I think that Assistant Law Director Feitner's letter was very clear that the mayor alone has the authorization to select the representative to be involved in the negotiations for the administration. That's where it stops. Now, add color commentary to that from my experience that over the years, there were people in the past that were involved. There were third-party representatives on either side that were brought in and were paid significant dollars to do that. Over the years, there's been trust that has been built. What's good for the union is good for the city and vice versa as we build these relationships that we all want what's best for this city. And having the right safety service individuals out there that believe in the system and work for it, it's good for all of us. Over the years, the last time 3 years ago when I started in my role, the contract negotiations were already started. And I came in mid-swing, and then we finished that situation up. There were no third-party lawyers at the table. When we needed legal consultation, we had our internal legal team, the law director and his assistant law directors, involved when we needed to have those conversations. And we were able to work through problems or negotiational points. When we had HR situations, we had our HR director involved. The mayor was lockstep with the administration and myself to work through these, and we came to a fair and amicable a contract that was then ratified. And not once did the unions bring a third party to the table this last time because they felt that the negotiations went fairly and it was a balanced negotiation. Now, moving forward, we are in a situation where, and I want to clarify, I made a point earlier and I want to make sure it's clear. I came in and I was new to the Findlay process. That doesn't mean I'm not versed with negotiations. In my previous administrative role with another private organization, I was at the administrative side of the negotiations with the UAW, in fact, for multiple negotiations in my past. So I feel I bring experience that other people don't bring to the table to have these negotiations. And I also have worked in the safety side of this community, so I can essentially sit there and say, let's go back to the table and have these conversations. So with the internal team that we have, I feel we're in a good position to move forward with these negotiations. If the city comes to the table with a third-party legal individual when it hasn't been past practice in the recent negotiations, I would think that the union might be like, what are you trying to accomplish here? Because now there's distrust in the situation. In the reality of this contract, 85 to 90% of this contract will not change. It hasn't changed. It continues to roll over. There's language that gets changed. The auditor and his team brings some new language when it comes to governmental accounting practices and things like that. The payroll needs to be adjusted, and we make those adjustments. There's 15%-ish, plus or minus, of this contract that will be adjusted based on cost of living, payroll, longevity. You know, I can list 10 issues that are probably going to be the crux of this negotiation. And I feel very confident that we can come to an amicable contract without bringing in third-party individuals. Now, I asked our law director earlier, I'm like, ballpark, because ballpark, what this potentially costs the city. And we're talking plus or minus $350 an hour for a lawyer to come in with this expertise. Now, I can't tell you it cost $100,000 or whatever because, you know, when it comes to research and drive time and sitting at the table, I don't know what that looks like. But I feel at this point we are in a good position to initiate goodwill negotiations with these unions. And the reality is if we get into a situation where we go to fact-finding and we come to a impasse, that's when we would then bring those individuals in if necessary. But I'm confident in the team's ability to get this done. I'm confident in the union's willingness to come to the table and figure out an amicable contract and move forward. So,
Mr. Rasmussen.
Yes, I had discussion with Rob this afternoon, and I don't think there's any reason to come out of the gate and hire an attorney. If you can manage it and say you get 2/3 of the contract, but you have to have something else, then that person can come and get hired and work that out. But for the last 20 years, we've not done that at all. We've managed the negotiations and come out with some pretty good contracts.
So we're going to go Mr. Stasiak, Mayor Mern, Mr. DeArmond, Mr. Martin, and then Ms.
Everyone
Warnicki.
had their hands up.
Mr. Stasiak.
Hey, real quick, a fact for the record, I have received numerous requests for data, and it has been from an attorney on behalf of Police Association, those requests. I think we're finally completely filled today, and the Director of Law has been copied on those, but there's a law firm involved that made those requests. I can't speak to who or their role in negotiations, but you know that there is outside legal involved on the other side, at least to some extent.
Mayor Mern.
Yeah, so I believe that's pretty standard with their state union. They have to provide certain information. I was just gonna pretty much, Rob really did a great job explaining it. I think it would set the wrong tone. I think that when we go through this process, we can bring information back to you per the language of the law. You guys then get to make a determination. If there is something that we are unable to explain how we reached it and that you guys don't believe it's fair, then you can deny the contract and we can go back and then if necessary, bring in legal. But I think that it has been a great benefit, a great cost savings, and shows that we not only I think we respect our union, but I think on all of our employees, and I think that that's an important note, that we are talking about all of our employees, that we're able to reach a sustainable, good contract. But it also shows that they have respect for the organization. And I think one of the key things that we've talked about over the last couple of years is that our structure of wage increases over the last 3 contracts now have been built based off of the income tax growth. And so when they see the community growing and that benefit, that directly impacts their wages. And that helps them be a part of the team of wanting to see our community prosper. And I think that that is really important. And by coming in, I think, in a more aggressive approach, that would not be productive.
Mr. DeArmond.
To Councilor Wobser, so what is the problem we're trying to solve? What is your concern? I don't really have a history with this, but I'm just sitting here listening to the conversation. What's your concern? What are we trying? Do you think we're overpaying, or I don't know?
Oh, no, not at all. And in fact, I think that the mayor stated it very correctly, as did Rob. The situation that we currently have in play seems to be working well. We have made changes to it, though, because of COVID year. So that actually lasted, 2 years before we made changes to it. So the point being is that in years past, we've had negotiations and had this third-party attorney involved such that they were looking out for the city and really, I'm losing my words here, Dan, and I apologize. I think that we're just looking for a little bit more help and guidance on the taxpayer side of this.
Okay.
That's simply it. Okay. Now, again, 15% of the contract is potentially out there, unless, of course, they come to us and say, look, we're done with this formula, right? And then everything goes out the window and we start over. So,
Mr. Martin.
And that could be. We don't know, but that's what negotiations are for. So, and I just want to reiterate your point of, keeping an eye out for the taxpayers and their dollars. Every day, that's fundamentally my responsibility as well as the administration's when I run in the operation. So I wanted to, you brought that up, and that's important. I'm glad, obviously, council is the one that says yes or no when we appropriate dollars. But that's my responsibility every day to make sure that we're doing things efficiently and operationally.
Ms. Warnicki.
Well, I think Dan asked my question. I was just wondering, again, from Jeff, where this is coming from, because it's never been mentioned before.
well, it was in the letter.
Well, I meant before that.
Yes, understood.
Mayor Mern.
Yeah, I would just reiterate that Rob is my designee and he keeps me informed. I am also a representative of the city of Findlay and the taxpayers, and certainly, and I think one of the things that we will work to improve upon is helping you give insight on all of the things that were brought up and where they ended up being, because I think it's important to know it's not like we just say yes to everything that's brought forward. Rob gets to sit in there and be the nice guy, and then he brings it to me and I say, nope. I just gave our hand a little bit, but So we certainly, no, we certainly, he does a great job. But I think it is really important that we certainly are keeping that in mind. We want to make sure that we are good stewards of our resources. We keep in mind that we have a finite amount of resources, and that when we make adjustments to pay, that has a huge impact on our operations, and the team understands that. So when we're talking about, hey, okay, equipment versus pay, one of the things that we're working on right now, we haven't probably done it in about 10 years, is Don Essex in HR is gathering information across city positions, not just union positions, but across city positions, to show where we are compared to peer communities. And not just looking at hourly wage, but also looking at benefits package, because that's a really important part. That yes, our hourly wage in some positions may be lower, but our benefit and healthcare packages may be more robust. So personally, I don't think outside legal counsel is necessary. I think it would be a waste of public resources and taxpayer dollars. But certainly, as we go through the process, I think we can keep council informed, and if we feel that at some point it is necessary, would certainly bring that up and be in support if we reach to a point that a contract was brought before you that you didn't believe was fair and in the best interest of our taxpayers.
Ms. Frischie.
I just want to go back. I think this whole discussion started when we had the letter in the council packet that from Rob that brought up that Councilman Whoopser had inquired about sitting in on these negotiations. The letter didn't sit well. And it brought up the discussion at that point of if we can't be in there to be able to have somebody reporting back and being part of that negotiation, because my intent was never to be part of the negotiation. It was just to be in the room to listen, to better understand, to have a council person in there. So it has taken us then to tonight's letter of from Mr. Feitner, breaking down in the 9 points why we can't be part of the collective bargaining process. And the fact that we've had legal counsel in the past, I don't think it should come across as a threatening thing, one, to the unions, nor to the administration. I don't think, at least I'm not, and I won't speak for Jeff, but I will. I don't think we feel that there's a threat there. But I think it's good process for us to have better involvement of understanding before you just hand something to us and tell us to pass it. And then we have not in the past bucked at it. But we have an economy that is a constant roller coaster right now. And it's good to compare other communities. But it's also good for us to have some outside legal counsel to be more neutral. The neutral part of it, I feel, although you explain things well, it sounds we're getting into gray, muddy water. So it's just nice to have somebody else there to listen, to maybe give some ideas. And I don't think we should use a local legal counsel for outside. I think we should get somebody that has no connections to the community when we do that. And if that means you guys have to pick it, that's fine. But that's what needs to be clear on my side as making my motion for outside legal. We spend money every day that I'm sure we can agree and disagree on funds being spent unnecessarily. But I think we only negotiate contracts every 3, 4, 5 years. So if we have to spend $5,000, $10,000, $30,000, I think it's good so that the community knows that we did it fully, we kept it neutral, we kept it unpersonal. And I by no means is trying to say to our fire and our police departments that they don't deserve where they're at right now. I'm definitely not saying that. So I just want to be clear. I think that's how we got to it. And I think it's, since that discussion came up, since Councilman Whoopser came to you, Rob, and then that letter started it, I think it's a good thing that we should do. I think it's smart business.
Mayor Martin. Mr. Martin.
So, hey, here we go.
Lex is in there.
So just just to clarify, the reason the letter came about, the original letter, last council, was because a question was brought up that, hey, this used to happen. We'd like to reintroduce this process. And the intent of the letter was to let everyone know that, hey, we're going to be starting negotiations. And this was brought to my attention, our attention, to look into. And there's case law that's actually saying this is not really a good idea for council to get involved in the why behind it. I did not bring Councilman Wopser's name into it because it was irrelevant in my opinion. It was a council question, or it was brought up. I guess the point behind this is we have these discussions a lot, and it's like having to validate facts over and over again, and we're happy to do that, but it's like we need to bring multiple validations to you because you don't believe what we say the first time, you don't believe the case law behind it, and now we have a legal opinion that's not an opinion, it's actually citing law that says this is how we should do it. So that's the reality of it. And if we don't bring things to actually support by law, then it's defunct. So the intent of the letter was nothing more than, hey, we're going to start negotiations. This was brought up, and it's really not a good idea because it could create litigation for you. That was it. Now, if that offended you because it was direct, I'm sorry. I was trying to be direct. And then at the end of the day, Feitner actually cited the ORC afterwards. He was like, let's clear this up a little more, and let's make sure the legislative body, or the arm of the government, legislative body, actually knows what lane they need to stay in. That was it. Nothing more. And that's all we're trying to do.
Mr. DeArmond.
Great discussion. Thank you, everybody, for participating. I'm ready to call the vote.
I'm going to call on myself quickly. Prior to my time on council, I know that union negotiations were sometimes pretty contentious. I think both sides were bringing in outside legal counsel, and then it evolved and improved, especially under Mayor Mahalick's administration with Mr. Smelzer, to the point where I understand it was local folks talking with local folks, and I always viewed that as a major improvement. And the fact that we had what was in essence a groundbreaking union contract that didn't have established pay raises, but instead tied union rate the pay raise to the income tax growth was revolutionary, and it was a sign of the trust that had built between the administration and the unions with council's blessing. I want to see that continue. I like the relationships that we have with our uniformed police and fire, and I fully support them, but I fully support their efforts working in this cooperative manner with the administration. It is one team, and it is enforced, and it is supported by the openness of our books and our management processes and our KPIs, and their knowledge that council supports them. And so I do not support this motion. And with that, Mr. DeArmond made a call to question. If there's any other comments, I don't see any. I'll ask the clerk to reread the motion.
First motion was made by Councilman Wopser to hire third-party counsel, which died of lack of a second. Then Councilwoman Frischie made a motion for council to hire outside legal counsel, seconded by Councilman Wopser.
So we have a motion and a second. With no other question, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Those opposed, nay.
Oh,
Roll call
I'm
vote.
sorry. Mr. Ballman?
Nay.
Mr. DeArmond?
Nay.
Ms. Frischie?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Nay.
Mr. Hellman?
Nay.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Nay.
Mr. Palmer?
Nay.
Mr. Russell?
Nay.
Ms. Warnicki?
Nay.
And Mr. Wopser?
Aye.
So 2 ayes, 8
And,
nay.
and the motion fails. Other questions or comments on the letter? Thankfully, there are none. Letter be filed. We're at the Immigration Task Force.
Okay, sorry, lost my place. Immigration Task Force meeting minutes for April 17th, 2024.
Questions or comments? Mr. Stasiak.
I just want to make a quick comment. In the income tax board meeting for the benefit of the group, I made a request.
Jim,
Yeah, I know exactly what it is, yep.
this is immigration.
Yes, that I requested that due to the immigration and some of the information that we're getting regarding undocumented, potentially undocumented workers, I requested that the income tax administrator start to track the data as to how much income tax revenue remains unclaimed. In theory, if we have an increase in undocumented workers in our community, and an increase, a data point will be how much withholding remains unclaimed because large employers have to provide withholding to us. So we'll start tracking that data, and maybe you'll get some information about out of that. I just want to make sure you were all aware of it.
Thank you, Jim, and I apologize for that. Other questions or comments? Minutes be filed.
City Planning Commission agenda for May 9th, 2024, as well as the staff report of May 9th, 2024, and the minutes of April 11th, 2024.
And that would be the replacement agenda?
Correct.
Correct. Questions or comments? Agendas, reports, and minutes be filed.
City Income Tax Monthly Collections Report for April 2024.
Questions or comments? Report be filed.
Traffic Commission minutes of April 15th, 2024.
Questions or comments? Mr. Niemeyer.
If we okay this meeting, that means the parking is going to change on West Lincoln Street?
Mr. Kalb?
As far as the configuration, yes.
Yes.
It would be working with them to figure out, we've done some preliminary measurements on there, it's feasible, but at the end of the day, we need to make sure that it does not create a bottleneck or anything down through there. So that's where my office will be coming in to ensure that we don't have any roadway problems or anything like that down through that area. But, go ahead.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Were any of the residents notified that which live on the south side of the street about changing the parking configuration? There's multifamily units over there. Previously, I had a rental property over there, and 3 tenants, they were parking on Lincoln Street. And I think this will, the reason I think you're doing this is because for the sale of Lincoln School, because Lincoln School is still owned by the Findlay City Schools. And I think this just might be making it look a lot better for the purchaser. And it's like economic development's sneaking one past us again.
Ms. Frischie.
So I guess I wanted to talk on the same thing, but to clarify, the conversation is Lincoln Street, parking reconfiguration, West Lincoln Street, between South Corey and Southwest Street. We have, when we made Crawford Street West one way with reverse angle parking, which is what you're proposing here, with gaining approximately 20 parking spaces and still maintaining the parallel parking. From my memory, Mayor Mahalik was very forthcoming with us. We had conversation. It was a dicey conversation, and we tried it for a year and found out that, okay, in that area it did work, but there was concerns. For this to be going through Traffic Commission, in my view, is completely inappropriate, especially when the citizens have not been contacted in that area, because I made some phone calls last night too. And then, you know, when economic development was in the room for this discussion, they wanted to remove the 2-hour parking. And then there was talk about putting e-parking solution in and having a third party, and then giving the people that are in the Lincoln School unlimited parking hours, but everybody else would be limited to 2 hours. And for me, since the conversation started, it may not happen in the beginning, but my fear is it'll happen later. And when we're having parking discussions in the downtown, and with the county commissioners and everybody else, this needs to be removed from the Traffic Commission process before Jeremy spends time on it, until we can reach those property owners through mail and get their input And I agree that it looks like we're setting up that property to sell, because I know they're having problems with parking. And this would be a perfect time for me to also bring up that I think we need to bring back the Parking Authority Committee on City Council, because obviously there's other discussions going on that I think council needs to be more involved.
Mayor Mern.
So appreciate you bringing this up. I actually used to live on Lincoln Street and had a duplex and so familiar with that area. A couple of points of clarification. First of all, yes, a number of changes were requested. Removing the 2-hour parking in that block was one of them. That was not approved at the committee meeting. So to your point, Councilman Niemeyer, it is actually adding parking on the north side, so it will benefit the residents in that area, and it will maintain the residential street parking on the south side. So those will both be maintained. This actually was discussed as well at City Planning Commission, because this was part of their original proposal. It was shown on their designs, but has to be approved through Traffic Commission. So that meeting, it was discussed and residents were present. And so it was shown on their initial concepts. Related to changes to the 2-hour parking, any changes to that would either be brought back to Traffic Commission, but more likely I do intend on the list of things to do with council this year is have the conversation around parking with the Street, Sidewalk, and Parking Committee, which is the appropriate entity to have it at, giving council the sole discretion of how to be able to move forward with that. One of the things that we have talked about as an administration is looking at, as we hopefully have additional parking solutions in the downtown area, is focusing 2-hour parking along Main Street and like the first 2 blocks off of Main, and then moving to either 3-hour or no limitations beyond that, especially when you get into those residential areas. Oh, the high school students are bored with us, guys. I don't blame them. No, I'm just kidding. But so I do think it is. But I think for this point, I hear the concern of the neighborhood, but I actually think that this provides more parking opportunities for the neighborhood. And I think creates also some very nice aesthetics and traffic calming within that area that I think, again, will also benefit the neighborhood.
Mr. Kalb? No? Ms. Frishy?
I'm not saying that that the neighborhood will like it or not like it. It's not my neighborhood. I don't live there. But I think not notifying them of this and to fully understand, again, we passed this committee report, you move forward. So I would make the motion, I don't know if it's even doable, tell me if I'm wrong, to remove item 3 from the Traffic Commission agenda if they want to pass the rest of the agenda. Is that allowable or no? Well, there was 2 other items. There was
Okay.
Jonathan, there was a North Main Street, and then there was Amelia Avenue. So if you want to allow that to go forward, could we accept the committee report? It moves forward. And I just think.
I
that
just
is
asked
appropriate.
Mr. Rasmussen, and he said that is we can do that if we so desire. Mr. Kalb?
So where would you want that to go? I mean, if you take it off the agenda, it's still an issue that's out there that still a request. So where would you want it to go?
Sure. So to me, if nothing, it can go to Street, Sidewalk if that's where she wants it to go. Or again, Parking Authority needs to be brought back into existence, I believe. But it needs to come through council, and the citizens that live on that block in the immediate area of how we usually do 500 feet of a
Yeah.
site.
So the planning commission, they
But
sent out letters for that.
that was for the original plan. That's not specifically.
which included.
It may have included, but let's be honest, it's going to be better to be and physically mail to those property owners.
We have a motion. Mr. Niemeyer?
Yeah, I can second that just for the residents that live around there. At least they know I'm trying to do something. And another question, that is
Okay,
still in the
we have a
Dora
motion.
area,
We have a
right?
motion and a second. Comments on the motion? We have a motion so there are 3 items on the Traffic Commission agenda or report, excuse me. The motion is to remove item 3 from the report and refer item 3 to the Streets, Sidewalks, and Parking Committee of Council for consideration. And that was the motion, and it was received a second. Other questions? Mr. Wobser.
Couple of quick questions. The Lincoln Street or Lincoln School has been sold. Is that correct? I thought it was under contract and
It
done.
is under contract and moving forward in the near future.
Okay, so they have not finished the contract up yet.
They are working to schedule a closing.
Thank
They
you.
have requirements they have to meet in
The,
order,
the closing contingencies have been met.
except for the parking.
This was not a part of it.
Okay,
Mr.
so it's
Martin.
moving forward regardless. And I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr.
Go-
President,
please, Jeff.
Jeremy, you said that the citizens on that street were notified?
So as part of the planning commission process,
And how-
HRPC sends out letters to, it used to, I don't know, this fell at the, and then now it's 500. I think this fell underneath the 500
Right.
radius on that. So they would all receive letters. I do remember during that planning commission, there was residents within that area that came because one of the concerns I remember was the playground. A lot of people use that within the area. So,
Sure.
you know, that was out there notified. They did have this on there as shown for the, at that time, I don't think they had reverse angle, but in my, I like reverse angle. You got to back out at one time or another. As a, you know, with young kids, you open that door, you're blocking the roadway. So their only route is towards the sidewalk. So I know different people have different opinions, but that's where we said, hey, we would like to see reverse angle, take it to traffic commission, discuss further on that.
Okay, so Jeremy, there was a small change versus what we sent
It
out
was
to
just,
the. Okay,
it's just the angle of, or, you know, direction of parking.
understood. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? We have a motion and a second. Let's do a voice vote on this. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Ballman?
Nay.
Mr. DeArmond?
Nay.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Nay.
Mr. Hellman?
Nay.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Nay.
Ms. Warnicki?
Nay.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
So, 1, 2, 3, 4 in favor, 6 against.
I'm sorry?
4 in favor, 6 against. The motion does not pass.
Right, thank you.
Other questions or comments about the Traffic Commission report? Mr. Niemeyer.
It doesn't pertain to traffic commission,
We're on the Traffic Commission report.
so I have to shut up.
I would appreciate it.
So now we have.
Is it, I mean, Jim, is it concerning the Lincoln Street and that item? Yeah, please.
I was just concerned, that is still in the Dora area. Dora goes to Little Caesars. There's a sign on the post.
But to the west, it ends at Corey. So that is outside of the Dora area at this time.
Well, there's a sign at Liberty.
It goes some very weird angles, but I
So there's a-
believe on Lincoln Street, it comes
There's a
down and
cutout?
stops at Corey. I
Okay,
may be
thought
wrong,
I
but
thought it was a rectangle, so there could be a cutout.
no,
somewhere.
there's lots of jagged edges. I don't
Okay.
know how it was decided. I wasn't asked, but
My fault,
it's real
I'm
messy.
human.
Thank you, Jim. Other questions or comments on the Traffic Commission report? I have one, making this the most discussed Traffic Commission report in the history of City Council. And mine concerns Amelia Avenue, and which is case number 2. I read through that, and it's a bunch of discussion about controlling traffic. And the applicant made a statement that he knows that speed bumps are not allowed in the city of Findlay. I did give City Engineer Calb a heads up that I was going to ask this question, but I wondered about the applicability of speed tables and or speed humps in the on this to alleviate to slow down the traffic. I know that Akron has for a couple of years employed speed tables. Speed table is in essence about a 4 or 5 inch angled raising to a flat top to a 4 or 5 inch angled at the end. You have to go slow over it, or else you get the ride of your life. They are quite effective. Akron has used them. They started a couple years ago. They now have residents requesting them. I think they've put in about 1,000. Speed tables can be installed on a temporary basis for very little money. They literally can come out in pieces of rubber be attached to the road. Speed humps, I would assume, are something similar. It's just a slightly different style. Have we considered an inexpensive solution that we can try, see if it works, and if the residents are up in arms on it or it does not prove effective, then we can remove?
So, when you asked this question, I did a lot of research on what other communities are doing, what are some studies that are coming around with this, because, in years past, the speed bumps, speed humps, and all that kind of stuff was your go-to to slow traffic down. They're finding more and more that your best practices on residential or on roads, period, that you're not wanting to put those. Where speed bumps and speed humps, where you're wanting to put those is in your high pedestrian traffic areas. So that's why you see them a lot around schools. You see them at malls. You see them at, anywhere, baseball diamonds, where you want people to go slow because you have a lot of people crossing where you don't expect at one time. We never really consider them because, there's a lot of things that go in with that. As soon as you're starting to put those within the roadway, now your emergency vehicles, they're having increased reaction time just because they have to slow down with those too. They can't be launching over them. Another problem that other communities have been running into that they found out is, okay, you sold it on this street. Well, those same drivers are now finding a new street to use, and you're just pushing the problem to the next street. So you might solve it on one, but then the next street over is going to have the same problem. Another thing with our snow removal process, those can be damaged, or they will be damaged within that, damage our vehicles and our snow plows with that. So we try to stay with them because when you're removing snow, you got to go a certain speed to throw that snow off the roadway because that's our main objective. So, if you slow down at any point for those, then you're going to tend to see have a pile up within those areas. So with, if we did asphalt, we always kind of looked at the asphalt ones, but, there's a high maintenance cost with those as well. So that's why we always try to go away from them or not implement them because there's a lot of steps that go with them. There's additional signage that needs to go up. There's additional painting that goes up. There are certain distances where you should and should not put them. How's it going to affect parking within that area if it's a non-curb street? How's it going to affect the drainage within that area? So we always try to stay away with it and look at other traffic calming devices or strategies to do that. Just because, like I said, it's finding out more and more they aren't fit for overall roadways unless it's a high pedestrian area where you're getting a lot of people.
Well, if that's the case, then Akron's going to have to remove about 1,000 of them. I have personal experience in other communities that I visit on a regular basis that get a heck of a lot more snow than Findlay, Ohio, that are in residential areas. They are in there in concrete, and they work. You simply do not speed through these things because it's ineffective. And when I read that report, item number 2, we in essence said we can put up a camera, but when we take it down, we know they're going to speed, and we're throwing up our hands and saying there's nothing we can do. Here is an inexpensive solution that we can try, that if it doesn't work, we can simply remove. Why won't we even give it a try and see if it works, and examine what the results are on streets next to Amelia, if it results in more cutoff. The barrier to try is so inexpensive. It seems like as a way to be responsive to valid citizens' concerns that we hear not just on Amelia Avenue but on other streets within the city, that we give it a try. And we don't have to have the discussion here. I wanted to have this as a discussion for half so the other council members could hear it. I think this is worthy of more discussion, but happy to do it offline. And
yeah, so
to
just clarify, it's not that you can't use them. I don't want you to think that any city can't use them. You can still use them. It's just kind of your best practice of what they've been finding out from people that have years of studies. With that is say we did try out an area with that. One of the concerns or one of the things I would like to see is a standard of where they can and cannot go, because you don't want to start an impression where we'll put a speed bump wherever there as a speed problem, and then it's actually directing traffic in another way, or traffic is going in a different flow. So if that is a trial period that we are wanting to try, I would like to set some guidelines on how many we can put in a street, how many we can put in an area, stuff like that. So we can discuss offline, but those are things I'm thinking in my head.
Thank you. Mr. Niemeyer.
Well, I just want to say I was cut off, so can't we move on?
Oh, he feels slighted.
I'll second.
Mr. Niemeyer, anytime you want to do this job, I am happy to have you do it. But I appreciate the good-natured ribbing. Any other questions on the most discussed Traffic Commission report ever? Seeing as though there's none, report to be filed.
Well, no, we have to vote.
Oh, all those in favor of accepting the report, please say aye. Those opposed, same sign.
Nay. Well, no.
It was
No,
not
just-
amended.
No, we only got four.
Amended failed.
So you're either an aye or a nay for the whole thing.
So all those in favor of accepting the report, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Same sign, nay.
Okay, 9-1. Report be filed. Thank you.
Findlay Fire Department activities report for April 2024.
Questions or comments? Report be filed.
Letter from City Engineer Kalb regarding water treatment plant generator replacement, project number 357-25300.
Questions or comments? Mr. Stasiak.
Just real quick, this is part of the process I worked on with Councilman Wobster and the administration. So in the future, we shouldn't see a lot of odds and ends pieces of legislation come in with major projects like this. The idea is to wrap them all up, have everything in it that's submitted to you. And that way we minimize paperwork, keep things moving smoothly and streamlined. And I thought this was a great example to emphasize that to you.
Other questions or comments? Mr. Kalb.
So I just want to clarify, but the last time why we appropriated the money was just to get the generator moving as a 98-week lead time. We knew we still had some stuff with the ATS, the switchgear and all that kind of stuff, but at the time, we had to get that generator because it's 98 weeks out. I don't like doing these short little, ones either, but when stuff comes up, I got to keep that project moving, so that's why you see that came up. We want to make sure we can get the switchgear and the ready for the ATS and the generator when it does come.
Agreed.
Any other questions or comments? Letter be filed.
Letter from City Engineer Kalb regarding West Park Sanitary Extension Septic Removal, project number 356-42500.
Mr. DeArmond.
Septic removal. We never talked about septic tank. I don't want
No, it's the Newell Street, but that's
Okay.
what we just called
Okay.
on the project
All
as
right.
identifier.
That's not part of the scope
So
of work.
no, it was bid out as the Newell Street, but the official is just that.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Mr. Wolfser.
Jeremy, on this, you had the bids were from 230 to 301. We're appropriating 275. So was that contingency on top of the 230, or did we not accept the 230? I'm
No,
trying to understand.
It was the 230. I just have contingency in there.
Okay.
With the rock and stuff, you never know what that level is.
Very good. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Letter be filed.
Letter from City Engineer Kalb regarding Blanchard Street Waterline Phase 2, project number 357-40500, and Hemp Hill Waterline Replacement, project number 357-40300.
Questions or comments? Letter be filed.
Income Tax Board Minutes for February 8th, 2024.
Questions or comments? Mr. DeArmond.
Any issues with the $7,000 setup fee? We had a lot of discussion about that a couple months ago.
Mayor.
No, I believe
No.
they've already paid the bill.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Stasiak.
Actually, we haven't paid it. It's a piece of legislation tonight that you'll have to approve.
I saw that.
But the other comment on there, that we had a pretty robust discussion about making sure we charge villages an appropriate amount.
Yep.
At this last meeting, there was a step process discussed somewhere between 2 up to 3%. That failed at the moment. I don't know ultimately what's going to happen, but at least we're talking about not charging 1% or 1.5% or 2%. We're talking about charging a fair amount to the villages for the fair amount for the Findlay taxpayers. So let's see where that goes.
Other questions or comments? All in favor of accepting the income tax board minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The minutes are accepted.
Findlay Police Departmental Activities Report for April 2024.
Questions or comments? Mayor Mern.
Just one quick comment. Working with the police department to update our KPIs. One thing I just want to note, because there was a article in the newspaper a couple weeks ago about the county crime rates. The city of Findlay crime rates have actually decreased year over year, and so we will be providing more insight to the public on how that has occurred, and share some of that, because I think that that's a great achievement. We've been very proactive in continuing to work to decrease crime in Findlay.
Other questions or comments? Report be filed.
Yeah, I do have a question. So, Mayor,
Mr. DeArmond.
we were saying earlier there was some public comment about drug increase is increasing because of the immigrants, but we're not hearing that from the police department. So is that true or not? I mean,
To my knowledge, that is not
that is
accurate.
not true.
No,
Okay.
the crimes that we have seen an immigrant population involved in have primarily been traffic violations.
Okay.
There have been a couple of domestic disputes, and there probably were some drug
Okay.
activity, but I have not heard of that.
Okay.
And overall, in the city of Findlay, our drug charges have actually been decreasing, as well as our drug overdoses year over year
Good.
have dropped by over 30%.
I think it's important we recite data and not just what we think, and it just rumors spread. So thank you.
Correct.
Mr. Martin. Ms. Frishy.
So on that report you're looking at, you can see the narcotic investigations were at 10 for the month of April, arrests 10, and charges are 18. The charges have increased since January, slowly 5, 9, 11 to 18. Arrest went from 2, 6, 6 to 10. So there's your documents are all right there for facts to recite.
I'm talking about year over year, not just monthly trends, which we see fluctuate throughout the year on a regular basis.
Sure.
Other questions or comments? Report be filed.
Letter from Service Safety Director Martin regarding insurance payment for repairs of a police department vehicle from an accident.
Questions or comments? Letter be filed. We have 2 add-on letters.
Letter from Mayor Mern regarding performance R&D property.
Questions or comments? Ms. Frishy.
On that letter, I'm lost, so I just need clarification. Was this a flood project, or was it something else? I guess is my first question.
Mayor Mern.
Yes, this is part of the Phase 1 benching. There is a small sliver of Performance R&D's property where if you go out at Swale Park now, where the bike path has not been connected, there's different grading that has not been done. This portion of the property was originally part of that project that the county has been managing. If you recall, they went into an eminent domain and were in a legal process. They were able to settle that with the owner of Performance R&D for him to sell the portion needed of his property to the county. As part of that settlement, they are purchasing it for, I believe, $69,000. And the commissioners approached the city to get that done. They wanted us to chip in $40,000. And though I encouraged them to just take it out of the flood money, they wanted us to do it, and I just want to get it done. So this is what we're doing.
So what is the justification for this? Because it sounds we're putting in 40, right?
Yes.
So we're putting in more than the county,
Correct.
and it's a flood project. I don't know how I can support this if it's. Are there not dollars there? There were dollars there last I knew in the flood.
Yes, and I would prefer that it come out of that, but at this point in time, it's not worth arguing over, in my opinion, because it's more important to the residents of Findlay that this get acquired, the projects get complete, and ultimately, the city and county are both going to have to continue to contribute money to get flood projects done. So I agree. I think it should come out of flood money, but in my opinion, getting the project closed out and getting the flood maps redrawn sooner rather than later is a higher benefit than pinch and pennies on this one.
Mr. Stasiak.
I guess I have a couple questions I'd like to add to that. I had a conversation with an elected official at the county, and they told me this was not needed for flood mitigation, that it's needed for the path And that's why they were only contributing $25,000, give or take, that it's strictly that. And I need a clarification of it, I guess, to make sure that I'm paying what council intends to be paid for the state statutes. And then the second question is, with the comment on benching here, we've been saying all along, or excuse me, not benching, floodplain map. We've been saying all along the floodplain maps are not gonna be redrawn until the Eagle Creek Basin is complete. So which is it? Is it gonna be when this is done or when the Eagle Creek Basin is done? So a couple clarifications for our benefit.
Mayor Martin.
Okay, so because the county submitted the entire hydraulic improvement plan, including the work done that includes the bike path, the grading, the seating, etc., the project itself cannot be closed out with FEMA until this work is done. So whether you can say that there is a significant hydraulic improvement because of this portion or not, the project cannot be completed with FEMA until this is done. From a benching and the redraw of the map, what we are able to do, because there will not be a full floodplain remap until all flood mitigation projects are complete. However, in our communications with our FEMA representative, she said that anytime one of our projects is complete, within 6 months, we have to submit to them the changes that were made, and they do a map revision. So it is not the full, come in, do the full surveys, change all of the boundaries, but they will make modification, and there may be, so they're not gonna come in and change the entire map, but they're gonna be able to hopefully work with some of the properties in that area that are the highest likelihood to benefit from the improvements.
Mr. Frischie.
So I'm gonna go back from memory. I remember Water and Sewer had a request to vacate whatever that street is that dead-ended into the project of the bike path that we were gonna do, and at the last minute, they didn't vacate because there was some legal stuff going on. There was also the catalytic plan in that area, and there was discussion offline that it appeared that they needed to keep that in order to do the catalytic plan project. So are we talking bike path, catalytic plan, and not talking flood? Because if it's a flood project, it's 100% flood, and that's in the commissioner's lab. And if it's not, then we need to have a more transparent discussion.
Mayor Martin.
Bolton Street was not vacated because there is a 20-inch water line
Correct.
going through that area.
But we could have gave a
And
variance.
we could have given an easement, however, that would have not solved the problems that the property owner really had. He didn't want people walking through that area. People can still walk through. We would have had to maintain an easement where it would have been public property. He wanted a fence, which we've been able to work through it on. I understand your frustration that the commissioners are not covering this from flood money, but the reality is, for this flood project to be completed, this has to be done. We finally got them to get this done without going to court. I believe it is in our entire community's best interest. This has nothing to do with the catalytic plan. As I've stated multiple times, the catalytic plan is a document that shows opportunity zones in our community, and I think provides good benefit, but does not provide a specific plan that we have to execute upon. So I'm in full support of getting this done because the community, this project has been delayed by 5 years because of back and forth. I'm trying to watch my words so I don't say, let's see, how can I say nice things? I think it's in the community's best interest.
Mr. Kalb.
Ultimately, as well, that Bolton Street was not vacated because working with our public works and all that kind of stuff on how they access the Swale Park area for maintenance, they said that is kind of a crucial area for them to go in. So as soon as we lose that, yeah, we can get an easement for water line, sanitary, and sewer, but that's their access to that backside there. Otherwise, they're going to have to cross an area that is very prone to flooding and wet. So that was another reason why we decided it is not critical for us to vacate that.
Mr. Stasiak.
I guess I'm gonna go back to the mantra I've stated all along. Here we have a letter that says, no, the environmental's not been done on this specific property. It's very clear from the insurance, the Sanborn maps, that a few feet might make a difference because from the Sanborn maps, a railroad track appears to go right down the piece of parcel I'm talking about. So I guess to alleviate this, I can't support it as it sits as your fiscal officer, and I caution you against it, I think you'd be wise to get a fiduciary hired, have a fiduciary review the data, review the information, someone who represents the interests of the city of Findlay, not the county, not the Conservancy District or anybody else. And when that fiduciary says to you, this looks like a reasonable approach, then let's move forward. But until we have a fiduciary and until that has happened, I don't think we're doing the community or the taxpayer or the future users of the park, or the path, or whatever, proper justice.
Ms. Frischie?
If the auditor's statement from the commissioners is a true statement that they didn't need this for flooding, then I don't know how we're doing anything detrimental to the community if they're able to bench without it. I agree. Part 2 is a big concern that we need to address. But part 1, I'd like to see a letter signed by the commissioners saying that this is not a flood project, or that it is, because 2 things, I can't move forward. For me, it has to stay tabled until we have further information.
Mayor Martin?
Just one more point of clarification. Us contributing towards this project does not take ownership of the property. It would be still the responsibility of the county commissioners, as stated in item 2 in my letter. It would be their environmental responsibility to complete the project.
Mr. DeArmond?
Are we going to be excavating on this property? I mean, as part of the benching?
The commissioners would be completing the work,
Okay,
yes.
there is actual, I mean, it's going to get benched out, it's going to be
Yes,
excavated.
there will be portions of it. It's not going to be a full bench, but there will be soil removed, grading, et cetera, and any contamination that would need to be addressed would be
Okay,
addressed.
so that'll get addressed at the
Correct.
time? Okay.
Mr. Stasiak?
And for clarification, ultimately, the plan is for us to own this parcel, correct?
At some point in time, yes, that would be ideal, but they are going to have to take care of environmental concerns to a point where it can be a park space before we would take ownership. Therefore, they are addressing the environmental concerns.
Mr. Stasiak?
All butts aside, I stand by my statement, because one of my biggest concerns, and I go back to the meeting when we had the environmental group come in, and you were all sitting in the room, and our environmental review with phase 2 said, we found arsenic, we found benzene, we found all these chemicals in the ground. And the statement that was made from the other side of the table from someone who wasn't a fiduciary of ours was, we were ready to move forward, I guess we're gonna have to change some bid specs here. And my concern is, you can't see these things, so if we're gonna make the statement that we'll fix them as we find them, how are we looking? And that has not been addressed, and I wanna make sure there's a fiduciary representing the interest of the city of Findlay, so when we do ultimately own this property, we can tell our citizens that it's clean, or it's clean to this point, that there's delineations, and that we've done our due diligence, because not one person in this room that I'm aware of is an expert in this, and we need one.
Other questions or comments? Letter be filed.
Add-on letter from City Engineer Cal regarding Blanchard Street Waterline Replacement Phase 2, OPWC, project number 357-40500.
Questions or comments? Letter be filed. Committee reports.
An ad hoc committee met on May 3rd, 2024 to finalize the 2024-2025 council rules of procedure. The ad hoc committee previously met on March 13th, 2024, March 26th, 2024, and April 9th, 2024 for the review and discussion of said rules of procedure. We recommend a 1-hour public comment meeting. Participants will get 4 minutes plus question and answer time.
Mr. Palmer?
I'd like to make an amendment to the recommendation from the committee, and that is that for the agenda, that we would clean up some discrepancies between the changes that the committee had agreed to and what was in the draft document, and then move on with the Q&A for a full hour.
We have a motion to amend the committee report.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. DeArmond. Questions or comments on the motion? Mr. Wobser?
Has a date been set yet, Councilman Palmer?
Monday.
Yes, next Monday, the 13th at 5:30 here in council chambers.
Other questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of amending the committee report as moved, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The committee report is amended. Questions or comments on the amended committee report? Ms. Frischie?
I have 2 things that I got from two different citizens, so if I could just bear with me and let me read them to get an answer. First person was saying that they were able to attend the May 13th commentary meeting for the rules. Number one, their first question is, since the mayor has publicly said that she is fine with the commentary being directed to her, I believe the rules should be removed. All the public officials should be able to handle 4 minutes of question, praise, or criticism. The second thing was, she noticed that topic commentary had been moved to the legislation section. I specifically asked during council if commentary would be limited to legislation and was told that all items on the agenda were open for commentary. For example, a water meeting report without legislation. It is very concerning to me that this change was made. Legislation on topic is not always on the agenda. Number three, I have commented publicly on the rules regarding the limit of 60 minutes of commentary. I do not believe it should be included in the Q&A from the topic. That could cause filibustering. Number four, the rules following the council president to screen out public speaking requests that are not city business is too vague in her opinion, and she believes city officials have an obligation to hear a wide range of concerns. I don't trust that the vague language is open for abuse or on topics that may seem contrary to the administration, and she requests that I bring that up. And then the second one, I had somebody this morning
Can I respond before you go any further?
No,
Alexa or whatever
you,
this is really wants
Mr.
to
DeArmond,
respond
Mr. DeArmond, Mr. DeArmond.
Okay.
No, you
thank
may not.
I'm sorry?
Ms. Frischie.
Okay.
Oh, okay, he's not answering me. The other one, I had a citizen said, during the ad hoc committee report was up for vote discussion, would I be willing to ask why public comment is being taken after the rules and procedures were already sent to the law office for review? It seems backwards. So it does seem backwards to me that you didn't get public comment, but you've already moved it. So that was the other question.
Other questions or comments? Mr. DeArmond.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but there were just so many questions, I can't remember them all. But okay, so let me try to go through them. Your first question was not being able to speaking only to city council and not to other elected officials. That is, we have two documents, and that hasn't been reconciled. That's one of the discussion points that needs to take next Monday night. I think there's a lot of pushback on that issue. I am of the opinion now that they should be able to speak to other elected officials, but that hasn't been decided by our committee yet. So that'll be a discussion item for next Monday. The second item, you talked about committee reports, commenting. It was my intent that public speakers should be able to speak to anything that's on the agenda, including committee reports. That's not what that document says right now, and that needs to be changed. And Patty, I sent you an email to all this. Okay, thank you. Okay. The third item was the 60-minute limit. I don't think City Council is interested in filibustering, but I do believe there are going to be controversial issues that will take the full 60 minutes during agenda items. And if we run out of time and there's no time at the end, so be it. They'll have to speak at the next meeting. But I'm not looking to go to a 3-hour meeting. I mean, people, beyond, once you get past 2 hours, you start losing everybody's attention. You can't, we cannot have a forever meeting. So, yeah, we're approaching the 2 hour now. So, I know.
So this amendment is going to take care of that because it obviously didn't match
Yes, it doesn't
with
match.
the video and because
Yes.
okay.
Okay, it's gonna fix. Well, there's the two items we're going to talk about is the committee reports. Yes, to your answer, yes, it will. It will. I hope it will. That was our committee's opinion that you could speak to committee reports. So the document doesn't say that yet. The fourth item was screening. I'm of the opinion that we should not be addressing things that don't concern city council. and we get lots of requests to the president of council. Somebody's got to screen it, and and if you disagree with Mr. Harrington's, then you should elect somebody else, is my opinion. I mean, but I think he's an honorable guy. He's been in this arena for a long time, and I think he understands what are city-related issues and what are not. So, and the fifth item is why public comment delayed. I'll defer that to our chair.
Other questions or comments? Mr. Palmer.
Yes, this is just trying to clean that up. We've made a few missteps along the way. We're just trying to clean it up and get it right before we bring it a final product to the full council.
Other questions or comments? All in favor of the committee, accepting the committee report, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
We didn't have a motion to accept it.
Looking for, excuse me, you amended, so now we need a motion, my fault. We need a motion
Motion to approve the committee report as amended.
Thank you. Second, Mr. Ballman. Questions or comments on this motion? All in favor of accepting the committee report as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The committee report as amended has been accepted. Legislation. Resolutions.
Only 2 hours? First reading for Resolution 14, 2024. A resolution approving the expenditures made by the Auditor's Office on the attached list of vouchers which either exceed the purchase order or were incurred without a purchase order, exceeding the statutory limit of $3,000, all in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 5705.41D.
Mr. Bobster.
Make a motion to approve.
Second, Mr. Niemeyer. Questions or comments? Ms. Frishy.
I know we had some legal and we had the Macomb on there, but number 3 was Cummins Facility. What was cleaning for public building and engineering?
Mr.
Was there
Martin.
something special?
As it states, it's for the municipal building, and because of the invoice being dated January 1, 2024, we don't approve a budget till January
just the
January
standard
2nd.
cleaning.
So this is standard because
That's
the
all I
invoice
need
came
to hear.
before the budget was approved.
Other questions or comments? All in favor of adoption of the resolution 014-2024? Please say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
And Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted. Ordinances.
So 38's tabled. Third reading for ordinance 2024-40. An ordinance vacating a certain portion of a certain alley hereinafter referred to as the YMCA vacation in the city of Findlay, Ohio.
Mr. Wobser.
Make a motion to approve.
Second, Mr. Hellman. Questions or comments? All those in favor of adoption of ordinance 2024-040, please say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
And Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
Third reading for ordinance 2024-42. An ordinance authorizing the mayor, service safety director, and/or city engineer of the city of Findlay, Ohio, to apply for funding through the Federal Aviation Administration for the rehabilitation of runway 725 in order to receive funds for the construction portion of the rehabilitation of runway 725 construction at the city of Findlay Airport, and if funds are awarded, to enter into a grant agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration and declare an emergency.
Mr. Wobser.
Make a motion to approve 2024-42.
Second, Mr. Ballman. Questions or comments? All those in favor of adoption of ordinance 2024-042, please say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
And Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
Third reading for ordinance 2024-43. An ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director and/or City Engineer of the City of Findlay, Ohio, to advertise for bids where required and enter into a contract or contracts for construction of various projects in accordance with the 2024 Department Equipment List, appropriating and transferring funds for said capital expenditures and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Ballman.
Move for adoption of ordinance number 2024-043.
Second, Mr. Greeno. Questions or comments? All those in favor of adoption of ordinance 2024-043, please say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
Mr. Hellman.
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Wobser. Mr. Ballman.
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond.
Aye.
And Ms. Frishy.
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
Third reading for ordinance 2024-44. An ordinance accepting the designated area as shown on the Tall Timbers 3rd Edition subdivision plat, which has been accepted by the City Planning Commission.
Mr. Wobser.
Excuse me, motion to approve 2024-44.
Second, Mr. Palmer. Questions or comments? All those in favor of adoption of ordinance 2024-044, please say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Hellman.
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Wobser.
Aye.
Mr. Ballman.
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond.
Aye.
Ms. Frishy.
Aye.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. The ordinance is adopted.
Third reading for ordinance 2024-45. An ordinance amending Chapter 1100 et sec of the codified ordinances of the City of Findlay, Ohio, known as the zoning code by zoning the following described property as I-1 Light Industrial, hereinafter referred to as the Sheets, Hattrick, Buchanan annexation.
Mr. Greeno.
Move for adoption of ordinance number 2024-045.
Second, Mr. Ballman. Questions or comments? Ms. Frishy.
I just want to say that Sheets is a great company, family owned. They do a lot of great things, and they're heading west across the state from Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, tonight, though, on 45 and 46, I will vote no, only because in the last 12 months, with all of the influx in population going on and us not having our wheelhouse in order, I don't feel that we are doing the right service at this time for that. So I will be voting no.
Other questions or comments? All those in favor of ordinance 2024-045, please say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Wobser.
Aye.
Mr. Ballman.
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond.
Aye.
Ms. Frishy.
Nay.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
And Mr. Hellman.
The ordinance is adopted.
Third reading for ordinance 2024-46. An ordinance accepting and approving an application for annexation of territory situated in the Township of Allen, County of Hancock, State of Ohio, and being a part of the southwest quarter of Section 32, Township 2 North, Range 11 East, a tract of land consisting of 77.808 acres of land more or less, hereinafter referred to as the County Road 23212, Sheet, Hattrick, Buchanan annexation.
Mr. Baumann.
Move for adoption of ordinance number 2024-046.
Second, Mr. Hellman. Questions or comments? All those in favor of ordinance 2024-046, please say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Wobser.
Aye.
Mr. Ballman.
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond.
Aye.
Ms. Frishy.
Nay.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
Mr. Hellman.
Aye.
And Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
Second reading for ordinance 2024-50, an ordinance appropriating and transferring funds and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Palmer.
Hey, Jeremy, is there a imperative to get this project moving sooner?
Yeah, with that area, I mean, the George Midland and all that, we're trying to fit it in when school's out and get it in, or get it back in before school's back in session. So contractor's ready to go on this, so if we can get the money, we can get them rolling fast.
Jeremy, does that mean, well, school's not out, are we talking the 2-week delay between now and our next meeting? Delays or start or?
Summer.
So once because that's in the heavy university area, and most of those are university housing. But yeah, once I can get their contract, they can start ordering material and all that.
I had it in the wrong place. Appreciate it. Thank you. Ms. Warnicki.
Based on that, I would make a motion to suspend rules and give this its third reading tonight.
Mr. Palmer, second. All those in favor, we have a motion to suspend council statutory rules on ordinance 2024-050. All those in favor of suspending rules and giving this ordinance its third reading, please say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Nay.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
And Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
The rules have been suspended, and this ordinance will be given its third reading.
Ordinance 2024-50.
Mr. Palmer,
Move for adoption of ordinance number 2024-50.
second, Mr. DeArmond. Questions or comments? All in favor of adoption of ordinance 2024-050, please say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
And Mr. Russell.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted.
Second reading for ordinance 2024-56. An ordinance to approve current replacement pages to the Findlay codified ordinances and declaring an emergency. First reading for ordinance 2024-58. An ordinance appropriating funds and declaring an emergency. First reading for ordinance 2024-59. An ordinance appropriating funds and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Ballman,
Jeremy, I just kind of wanted to add, because we were already moving on a portion of this project. How soon do we look to get this second phase of the project moving? Just wanted maybe if you could spell that out a little bit.
Yeah, that second phase, we're wrapping up design. There was a couple other projects I was trying to get out with water lines because we're seeing good water line pricing right now. So I would say within here this month, we plan on getting the next portion to pick up those two houses.
next one.
First reading for ordinance 2024-60. An ordinance appropriating funds and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Palmer,
Jeremy, is there an imperative to move this project along a little quicker?
Yeah, so I know it's kind of confusing because I have another one for Blanchard Street, but what this is EPA permits. Our permits it's just not a set cost. It's off of what the estimated cost is. Well, we've been moving fast on a lot of these to get them out the bid because of the pricing. So I need additional funds. So I don't need the other Blanchard one, but these two, that way I can get permits through the process.
Mr. Palmer,
With that being said, I move that this ordinance, rules be suspended and this ordinance be given its second and third reading.
second, Ms. Warnicki. We have a motion to suspend council statutory rules and give ordinance 2024-060 its second and third reading. All those in favor of suspending council's rules, please say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Nay.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
And Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Council statutory rules have been suspended, and this ordinance will be given its second and third reading.
Ordinance 2024-60. Ordinance 2024-60.
Mr. Palmer,
Move to adopt ordinance number 2024-60.
second, Mr. Ballman. Questions or comments? All those in favor of adoption of ordinance 2024-060, please say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
And Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
The ordinance has been adopted.
First reading for ordinance 2024-61. An ordinance appropriating funds and declaring an emergency.
Ms. Warnicki,
Because this is just moving insurance money over to get the car taken care of, I would move that we suspend rules and do the second and third reading tonight.
second, Mr. Niemeyer. We have a motion to suspend rules and give ordinance 2024-061 its second and third reading. All those in favor of suspending council statutory rules, please say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
And Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Council statutory rules have been suspended, and this ordinance will be given its second and third reading.
Ordinance 2024-61. Ordinance 2024-61.
Mr. Greeno.
Move for adoption of ordinance number 2024-061.
Second, Mr. DeArmond. Questions or comments? All those in favor of adoption of ordinance 2024-061, please say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
Mr. Bauman? Sorry, Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted. We have add-on ordinance.
First reading for ordinance 2024-62, and ordinance appropriating funds and declaring an emergency.
We have no motion, Jim. Okay. Old business, and I will start old business by make a motion to lift ordinance 2024-038 off the table. Second, Mr. Ballman. We have a motion to lift 2024-038 off the table. Second, all those in favor of lifting the motion off the table, please say aye after name is called. Those opposed, nay.
See where I left off, sorry. Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Yeah. Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
And Ms. Frishy?
Nay.
The motion has been lifted off the table. Mr. Bauman.
Move for adoption of ordinance number 2024-038.
I will second that motion. We have a motion and a second. Questions or comments? Mr. Stasiak.
I would like clarification from city council if you're going to pass this, if you are passing it for flood mitigation, if you're passing it for a bike path, or a combination therein, because it will make a difference as to whether or not I can pay it, since we don't have those items clarified.
Mr. DeArmond.
It's my understanding it's part of the flood mitigation project. Is that correct? I mean,
That's why it's mentioned.
Mr. Stasiak.
I've been told directly by an elected official in the county who would have knowledge that it is not, that it's part of it, however, it's not needed for it, it's for the path.
it's part of the flood mitigation. So that's,
So then it's both. It's both.
As stated previously, I think it would be beneficial for you to state here publicly that it is to complete the bike path, which is part of the project, which is fine, which benefits the completion of the entire Phase 1 benching project. So though it is not being benched to provide water movement, it is being completed to be able to complete the project. And I think that putting that on the record will be beneficial, so we don't have to come
Point
back
of
to this
order,
again.
we can't put that on the record because we don't know. We don't know the answer. If it is flood mitigation, I'm pretty sure the citizens of Findlay are going to want flood dollars paying for it instead of their tax dollars inside the city. And you don't, and that's why I asked Councilman DeArmond for a letter from our commissioner's office stating what this is. Because if it is, we gotta keep our pots of money separate and do our job, right? I mean, we shouldn't be paying county bills.
Mr. Wobser.
I would disagree. I think that the citizens of this community want flood mitigation finished, and they want it paid for, and we know that in certain parts of this going forward, the city's going to have to be involved, and this is probably just the first, maybe, in that whole situation. So I disagree.
I agree with that.
Ms. Frishy.
So, again, if the commissioners are saying that this portion had nothing to do with flood mitigation, right? If that is a true statement that they did not need this piece of property to complete the benching, then I don't think the citizens are going to be mad at us for saying no to spending $40,000. Now, maybe the citizens and maybe economic development, for the catalytic plan need that done. I don't know. But I do know that we do not have clarification, and I do not want the mayor speaking for me and telling me what to say on the record.
I'm going to make a comment here, calling on myself. I am voting in favor of this to secure land within the benching area in order to finish phase 1 of the benching project, as stated in the directly out of ordinance 2024-038. Mr. Wobser. A move to call the question. No.
I'll
Second. All those in favor of calling the question, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The question has been called. All those in favor of ordinance 2024-038, please say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Nay.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki? Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Nay.
And Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
2 nay.
The ordinance is adopted. Mr. Stasiak, you had a hand up for old business.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna share this for the good of the order. It should also have been a point of order. Multiple meetings now, and including in one, I received during a meeting a text that I did not reply to, without pointing fingers or accusing anybody or anything. Just be aware that in the training we've received for open meetings, if you actually attended that training, or had someone do it for you, that texting in a meeting between officials is not supposed to happen, and it appears to be happening, so I just caution against it. Thank you.
Other old business. Ms. Frishy.
I have 2 items. One, Jeremy, where are you on the Blanchard Street bike path study to determine if we're going to change our lane configuration back? Because I know it's been about a year now. We keep talking, and I haven't seen anything.
I know they were finalizing that plan because they wrapped up through this fall. So I
So
will
it's
check
been
in.
done.
I'll check in with that and see where they're at with the final report.
Okay, and then the second thing, Rob, where are we on the Blanchard River cleanup? Obviously, I was in some meetings that a citizen came to, and then I got updates that we now know our responsibilities of cleaning the river and where, but I haven't heard that has started or how we are going to move forward with a plan on that, especially through the downtown to Broad Avenue and across to Walmart.
Mr. Martin.
Yep. Thanks for the reminder. Actually, since that original meeting, we've actually devised a plan. To your point, we actually have designated responsibilities throughout the city. We have maps that designate who's responsible for what and contacts to actually work through that. And there have been, I don't know the tonnage, but there have been multiple days and efforts put towards the cleanup along the river within the city, and dump trucks have been taken out with different refuge, and they took advantage of some of the days of carrying recently, or the cleanups, the environmental cleanups. One of the disadvantages since we had those initial discussions were, as you may or may not know, we've had the wettest April on record, so that limits our ability to actually get into the areas that need to be cleaned up. This is more of a winter project than a spring or summer project, even though I think our environment and maintenance of it is a year-round scenario. But as things now bloom, it gives us the disadvantage of actually going into the thickets to clean it up. But we have a plan. We've been making great strides to improve and clean up the river, and we will continue that. And as we get towards fall and into the winter, when it's dormant, we will have more of a full court press to accomplish better improvements as we move forward.
Mayor Mern.
Just building off of that, we will also be doing some public communication on whose responsibility is what, because the city of Findlay is not able to do within the banks. We're able to help with the cleanup along the banks, but river maintenance itself is Hancock Soil and Water. So we are not able to do a lot of the kind of debris cleanup in the riverbanks. Just a couple of quick points. There was 158 pounds of pills collected on the drug take back day. So really glad to see people turning those in. And this was just a week worth. I actually haven't gotten the updated numbers for the last weekend, but we had 75 tons of trash that was collected during the bulk trash drop off. So that's continued to go really well with residents being able to do some spring cleaning and turn things in. And that does not include any of the tires, but I think I'm not sure how many different rollaway dumpsters of tires we collected, but a lot. My final item is a request for Councilwoman Frishy. I know you bring up a lot of concerns around economic development, and I would be very interested in any solutions or ideas that you would be able to provide. So I don't know if you would like to put together some documents on recommendations that you would like, or if there is a committee that you would like to be able to present to on some of the ideas that you have.
I think the most appropriate thing would be having a discussion with council, and I think we really need to have a meeting with economic development on the bigger picture, not about tax incentive plans and stuff like we discussed. Was that in January at the end of the year? I can't remember. So if you'd like to get together a meeting with economic development to talk with city council, if they want to hear it, great. You know where I stand on economic development, and as far as the influx in population and us not being prepared, I think you've acknowledged that. I think that the strategic plan for the immigrant task force has obviously, for me, validated that. And I'd like to see things being figured out with income tax. I was in that meeting. So it's not about me, it's council needs to get involved and the administration, and we need to have open discussion with the public. There's a communication barrier when we're talking immigration. For me, it's not only immigration, it is an influx in population, and we've got to get a handle on it. And the best way to do it is to slow down economic development and change what we are attracting to this community.
Well, okay, no, that's.
I don't want to get into a back and forth.
Different topic. I want to give a big shout out to the our public works department. They did a super job are continuing to do a super job with the tree planting program that we put together. My mother was a recipient of the tree, one of the trees, and we got a beautiful autumn blaze maple tree, I believe it was. It was planted. We worked very closely with AJ Kopis and Robin Shea. I even received the watering instructions today, which I hope it rains a lot. So let's, but I just wanted, those folks did an outstanding job of making the process as easy as possible, because it wasn't easy, right? Because you had to call oops and all that stuff and get flags, and it was a involved process, but they did a super job. So I hope we maybe do this again sometime, because I'd like a tree next time.
Mr. Ballman.
Yeah, just to piggyback off what Jeff said, as a part of this project, we are planting 130 trees citywide, and this is made possible by the grant that the administration sought on behalf of the Shade Tree Commission, and we are it's the most I think we've done in a long time. So it's a good thing, and trees will be popping up near you.
Other old business, Mr. DeArmond.
I just want to tell Jim, I attended the Sunshine Law training a few months ago on behalf of the 10 council reps. So I think there's a certificate I need to get to you for your audit. Or, yep. Yep. Okay. I'll get that to you.
Mr. Niemeyer.
I think maybe we should take a look at the parking on West Crawford Street, the angled parking, because the spaces are way too wide. They're like 8 foot. So,
It's too
but
big.
couldn't we go like 6.5 feet?
They're 12 feet right now, but we can shrink them down to 9. When I was the one that originally laid it out, so I know the number. But when we go to repave, we plan on shrinking those down, because they are very wide, because it was the very first time we.
Other old business. One old business item, it's really new business item, but it's also kind of old business item. There is a law director amongst us who is, I believe today is his birthday.
All right.
I won't say how old, but I believe it starts with a 6 and ends with a, okay, a lot. Happy birthday, Don. And I think we've kind of rolled through new business also. Mr. Kalb?
I got one. New business.
Please.
Just give you guys a heads up. So the Interstate and FHS Trail, which is the bike path, multi-use path on Broad Avenue in Howard, that goes out to bid May 15th. I need to be under contracts by June 3rd. I didn't want to have a piece of legislation and then another piece, so I waited until we actually had the bids, so that you'll be seeing that, but I'm going to be requesting a move on that just because I got to meet ODOT deadlines to have under full contracts.
Any other new business? And I would just like to state one thing on my behalf. I would assume this is on behalf of all of council. I send my condolences to Assistant Law Director Rob Feiner, who has experienced 2 deaths in his family in the recent last few weeks. My heart goes out to Rob and his family, and he is in my thoughts and prayers. With any other new business, seeing as though there's none, I will entertain a motion from Mr. Ballman to adjourn. So moved. Mr. Palmer, second. All in favor of adjournment,
Aye.
please say aye. And we are adjourned. Thank you.